everybody, for joining us again for another episode of Pursuit of Purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
Today we have with us a very special guest. He's joining us remotely. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Otto Kelly. I'm in Houston, Texas.
Well, and for those of you joining us from outside the great nation, state of Texas, you have to put it into perspective. You might ask, why would somebody be joining remotely when they're in the same state? Well, you can drive across Texas and it'd take you longer than to get from some places in the southern U.S. to Canada. So Texas is an amazing geographical place. So Otto, we thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you. We look forward to sharing your life and your experiences and your journey with our audience.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I'll tell you what, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us your background. Give us your a little bit of introduction to who is Otto Kelly.
My family's originally from Detroit, but when we were really young, my dad moved us from Detroit to Nevada. He was an entertainer, and needless to say, the cultural differences was crazy. So we had to adapt quickly. But soon after that, he passed away. I think I was 13 when that happened. But what happened is that, me and my brothers, we were gifted in athletics. And all we had to do was go to school and, study and play ball and not worry about getting shot at. Oh my gosh, it was great. So make a long story short, went to, had scholarship offers all over the place, went to University of Nevada, Reno, had an opportunity to excel there. During that process of time, just got embedded in the community. And one of the things that was really a centerpiece in my heart is fatherlessness, and how we as people grope for a father's help and instruction and presence. And so that became a lifelong desire, a lifelong mission of mine to encourage and help individuals and come alongside and help eradicate this epidemic called fatherlessness in our nation. With that, had opportunity to pastor several churches, and then my latest venture was that developed a curriculum called Dad E-Academy / Sons to Men, and primarily geared toward young men and young fathers, but not exclusively to fatherhood, but manhood and accepting responsibility and walking in your God-given talent, and not trying to prove yourself to anybody, but walking out your destiny. So in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing and what I'm about.
Well, that's amazing, and I don't know what you'll say to this. I'm sure you'll probably agree and have some comment on it, but it's a very needed asset what you've been working on, resources for young men to learn how to become a man and how to become a father in our societal climate, political climate especially. There seems to have been an assault on manhood and fatherhood. Yeah. All together. Yeah. The concept of being a male, the concept of being a healthy masculine person has been demonized. Yeah. And associated with some of the worst types of behavior. There's been a lot of association with violence being a part of masculinity. Well, there are some types of violence that are healthy when it's a protective part of masculinity, but that doesn't mean that to be masculine you must be abusive or take advantage of anyone. Right.
I can remember I have a daughter that's in her very late 20s, and so she grew up with certain shows were popular at certain ages. And I can remember we started editing some of the viewing. We watched it with her. We tried to be engaged parents, like I'm sure all three of us are. And I can remember looking, her mother and I talking like, that is not appropriate. They're basically impugning the value of fatherhood. The dads were goofy and they were nerdy, and they were there were all these things to be disrespected and talked behind their back and whatever. I said, we're not watching that. That's not. And the mothers sometimes too, even the mother characters. And so we started editing heavily because we could see the trend that you're referring to, Rob, and that's just in produced media,
Hollywood.
And then it didn't take long before that became a reflection even in society as a whole. At some point, they're going to take it to a more demonized level, which is, oh, men are misogynists and all this kind of stuff, and which is not true. And I appreciate your personal ministry to say, no, we're going to change that narrative.
Right. And we have no problem expressing unapologetically that that's what we're about. Mm-hmm. And because we recognize, when you look at a lot of the statistics that's based in our nation, when you look at 97% of homeless teens are from fatherless homes, 77% of young ladies who are teen pregnancy come from fatherless homes. A child who doesn't have their biological father in the house is 40% more likely to be poorer than their biological dad. So the economic aspect is you can't calculate it. And then you figure again that you got 98% of the guys that are in the penal system come from fatherless homes. So you look across the board, the systemic thing that's taking place in regard to fatherlessness have eroded our culture. People can say what they want to say. I do a lot of reading when it comes to this, but I read one of the most prolific pedophiles said this. He said, when I hunt, he didn't say look, he said when I hunt for young boys, he said particularly, he said that I make sure that there's no father around. He said, I make sure, he said, because that's a threat. The father is a threat. So when I don't see a father around, when I see a father around, I go someplace else where the father isn't, because there's no resistance. Anytime a young man, a young boy does not have a father figure in his home, he's looking for it to be he's looking for affirmation, significance. He's looking for someone to believe in him. So when you have someone who has a deep voice and has that masculine quality around him, and then they utilize that as an instrument to violate. That is one of the strong reasons, again, among it many, that this particular focus is so important. It is so again, to reestablish balance, reestablish a sense of security in our nation. So from neighborhood to neighborhood, man, it does, and across the board. It's not a respect of socioeconomic background. It's not culture. It's across the board. But when we see fathers, again, step up and take responsibility and walk in the authority and walk in the compassion that they have, it changes everything, bro. I've seen this over and over and over and over again. And 9 times out of 10, you don't have to say it. I tell the guys, I said, listen, don't say what you're going to do. Just do it.
Yes.
And then a natural occurrence happens when you just start living it. Man, it just changes the whole atmosphere.
Well, we definitely appreciate your ministry,
Mm-hmm.
your purpose, and your vision, and we support that. We see that as an essential change that needs to take place in our nation and in our world. Yeah. America definitely, the U.S. definitely sees an enormous impact, but this is global. That is, you got a great movement you're working with. Mm-hmm. That's an amazing ministry. So thank you for that. You alluded that you had some siblings, some brothers.
Well, yeah, 2 older brothers. I had 2 older brothers. One of my older brothers died several years ago, but my oldest, he's still around. We had a pretty interesting home. We was again athletic, but was real. That's what I loved about my household. We were really real. My dad dying at such a young age. We had to really look out for each other. But I would see my mother do impossible things as she raised, 5 kids on her own. She's since, several, a while back have gone to be with the Lord. But yeah, so my family dynamic was pretty interesting, pretty cool.
What was discipline like in your childhood home?
My mother, like I said before, Pops died when I was really young, but extremely old school. Mom would definitely get in your grill and would not tolerate any disrespect. And
10-year-old Otto got some whoopings.
Oh yeah, man. That's why my athletic prowess came, man. Learned how to dodge mom. I was good to go after that. If mom couldn't catch me, nobody could. I was good, man. I was all right. So yeah,
moms are not just fast; they're sneaky.
Yeah, man.
They know where you're gonna go before you think you're gonna go there.
Come on, man. Come on, you know this. And everything's a weapon. Everything.
Yes.
Shoe, everything.
That's it.
Yeah, so yeah, we had a good home environment, but not rich by any stretch of imagination, but certainly a lot of love.
It's a fascinating thing that we've been working on some stuff recently that's brought a new question to mind. I'm going to ask it. What was entertainment like when you were a kid? Were you left to entertain yourself, find yourself things to do? Were you kicked out of the house during the day and told don't come back until the light comes on, like so many of us? What was that like?
Absolutely. Just, those street lights, just be home when the street lights come on. When the street lights go off, that's when you're home. There was a fair degree of, how do I say this? Things were rough. And what I mean by rough, I don't mean like bad rough. I mean that, you go out and you blast your eye, you're not going to go to the hospital, man. You're just going to go, hey, we got some ice, put it on there,
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it was more, my upbringing, I don't want to say tough, but I do want to say that it was just rough, man. We were kids, and things happen. You get broken ankles and things happen. But it's not. We learned to overcome it. Now, the entertainment, personally, was just a lot more real. In other words, when you grew up on the Archie Bunkers and you grew up on the George Jeffersons and you grew up on that stuff, the things they said would just completely cause lawsuits today.
Oh yeah,
right?
People would be screaming and crying.
That's what you deal with, and everybody wasn't so dang sensitive and whiny. Just hey, we talk smack all the time. That's just how it was, without taking offense to it. You just
everybody had thick skin. I mean,
yes.
And yeah, so nowadays, man, if you say something wrong or look a wrong way, man, you could be sued and you're guilty before you even. So I guess my upbringing was search for a better term. It was fun, crazy, intense. Definitely, not poverty, but definitely didn't have a lot. Yeah, but it was great. It was great stuff. Hope I answered your question, my friend.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we and some of the other interviews that we've had, folks from different disciplines, that purposeful emptiness, if you will, call it boredom, call it just the void of an instant satisfaction. It caused us to go out and to grab up a group of dudes and go just and play basketball, and we'll do it till we can't see the rim anymore. All right, well, I guess it's time to go home.
Skinned up knees, bleeding, it don't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting knocked around by the older kids, like you said, you had older brothers. I'm sure they didn't give you anything. Except that
a hard time.
A hard time on the head. That's about it.
Yes.
I had older cousins that were like older brothers, and if I didn't, you want to score? Good luck. And I'd have to find my way to the goal, and they're just throwing me off in the yard. But they made me get there, like get up. And then when I got to the school age, when it was me and they weren't around, it's like with a tough mother like yours, I wasn't afraid of anybody. And so I wasn't looking for trouble, but I wasn't really scared.
Right.
And maybe that's part of what has contributed to some of the fatherhood things is like a lot of these these boys grow into this adulthood and they're doing what they think are adult things, and they realize they're creating some very scary moments,
Right.
but they don't have that inner courage to confront it.
Right. I've noticed that when you display um, masculinity, or when you display the truth of what a real man does, and what I mean by real man, I'm talking about the man who's not lack confidence or insecure, but walks in confidence of knowing who he is. That in itself it's alluring, because you don't have to make a voice for yourself. Your very presence does that.
Hmm.
And when people see that, they don't know exactly what it is, but they know that they want it. Over the decades of working with young people, they wouldn't know exactly what it is or what it was, but they just knew that, I don't know, man. Every time Art comes, I know things are gonna be okay. I don't know what the scoop is, but I know it's gonna be all right. Now, they didn't come out and say that, but you would certainly see it in their behavior. To the point to where I'll share this with you real quick, a story. When I was with juvenile services, we worked in some different some pretty high crime areas, and it was just grassroots stuff. So from the main office, we would have satellite offices, and one of the satellite offices were in this pretty tough neighborhood, man. And so we'd have our outreach center there. So kids would come after school, homework stuff. It was like a boys and girls club, but it was more refined to kids that perhaps were on probation. Anyway, so we'd have this one kid come in every day, and he would do his thing. And but I would notice that he'd have something rough on him or something. Somebody like they roughed him up a little bit. So I asked him, I said, man, what's up? Well, they don't want me to come here. The gang don't want me to come here because, whatever. I said, all right. So it would happen every day. So then I'd see the guys out there, some ruffians, man. But bless God, I had a pretty decent reputation. Not from hurting people, but at the same time, we're going, if something happens, we'll call the police later. But with you, it's probably gonna be the ambulance. But anyway, so my point is that I went and talked to these guys. I said, man, why you keep he wants to do good. Why you keep messing with this young man? And he says, Otto, man, he's from the hood. He's got to recognize, man. He's got to protect. He's got to, I said, okay. So you telling me that you're going to defend something that don't belong to you? Help me understand this. These streets belong to you. They don't belong to you, man. Come on, man. That street right there has somebody else's name on it. It's not your name. Why are you defending something that don't belong to you? And so they him and Hard and everything. I said, man, this knucklehead, he's trying to make some things better for his life. So I said, just, come on, cut him some slack. Now, the idea that someone, a man, a father figure, would go out and express to them that you have you have skin in the game to help this young man's life better. You can either cause him to be, go down a road that's negative, or you can be an instrument to help him live a better life. The choice is yours. Now, when you place that type of challenge on someone who looks to you as an authority figure or as a father figure, then you're telling them, I believe you, man. You may be acting stupid, but I know that there's good stuff inside of you, and you want the best for us.
Yes.
And it's interesting to me that soon after that, they stopped doing it. And so I know it's a long story, but it's important. So I go back after about a month and a half. I go out there, see him. I said, so what's the scoop, man? And, he goes, with the homie, I didn't say his name, but he said, yeah, man, I noticed that, his mom and dad his mom and his dad made him come home and be home at a certain time. I said, okay. He says, well, mom and dad, my dad ain't around. This is a guy. My dad ain't the leader, really. My dad isn't around. And so I guess I have to say that I'm just a little jealous of the fact that he's got somebody that's willing to make him come home and do his homework, and because they care for him. And this is what he's saying to me, right? I said, so he said, so now we're gonna help him, man, do what he needs to do. Point is, and the whole thing is that when we as dads or fathers or men take the time to really tell someone who we consider to be maybe a threat or whatever, go past all of that and see that young man that's just looking for someone who to have confidence in him, significance in him, and validate him, it changes everything, because a reputation on them streets is everything, and so the way you view yourself is everything. So when you are able to go past all that, the social norm, go past that and talk to that person, what their heart really is, then it just changes everything. But many times, unfortunately, there's like you were talking about earlier, Robert, that there's so many distractions, so many that we forget when the smoke clears. They're young people looking for somebody to believe in them.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yep.
And it
Not
changes
only are
everything.
they,
It
not
changes
only, yes, and not only are they looking for somebody to believe in them, but they have a specific purpose. Each of them was created for something that nobody else can do.
Right.
And we are sacrificing pieces of our existence by not grooming them, by not helping them become that purpose.
right.
And that to me that's tragic.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. You're so right. I mean, I've done, I don't know how many different these workshops with men and with fathers, young and old. One oldest guy I had in there was like 85, 86. Still trying to develop relationships, right? And I said, there's one of the things I asked him, and you alluded to it, Robert. I said, man, I had about 25, 30 guys. I said, how many of you in this room ask to be born? How many of you in this room asked to be born? Well, of course, nobody raised their hand. I said, so that means that somebody somewhere stronger than you, bigger than you, more powerful than you wanted you here, right? So then I said, okay, and I explained to them the whole biological aspect of conception. You got 400 million sperm cells. You got 1.5 billion, at the top, but 400 million sperm cells go to that egg, and only one makes it through. So from the 400 million, which one in the group made it through that egg? So of course nobody raised their hands. Dude, it's not a trick question. Come on. So they raised their hand. I said, you made it through. I said, do you realize what happens at the moment of your conception? The microscopic burst of light takes place at the moment of your conception. I said, so that means that, similar to my personal opinion, I explain to these guys, my personal opinion, it's like in Genesis where God said, let there be light. And after there was light, then there was life. He started creating life. I said, so that means that at the subatomic level, God caused you to be here. And as a result of you being here, not only that, he then spoke your name. So that means that you are, at the very least, you're 1 in 400 million. At the very most, you're 1 in 1.6 billion. So either 1.6 billion or 400 million, that's an astronomical number that someone somewhere out there wanted you to be here, which means that the child that you have, the family that you have, somebody up there, somebody somewhere decided that you're the best person for the job.
That's it.
So that means that you are, like you're saying, what you can do, nobody else on the planet can do, because they'd be here instead of you. When we break it down to that perspective, because most men don't see themselves that way. They just see themselves as I'm a failure. I messed up. I blew it. I'm a terrible father. And the culture continues to try to reinforce that. But when we just go past all that and speak to the nucleus of who they are, you guys know as well as I, you've been doing this for a long time. It just changes everything. And that's the message more than anything else. I'm not going to show you how to be a good father. It's already in there. All I'm going to do is tell you who you really are and help you understand your real identity. And when that happens,
you're worth it.
Yes.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. So for me, that's the I don't know, the ground or the foundation that we talk with these guys. Because again, most of them, they've been listening to someone else define them. Our kids have been listening to someone else define them, just, depending on someone else's definition of their identity.
That's right.
But when you break it in and just go past all that, so no, dude, let me show you. Especially again, and I know I seem to be redundant, but especially when it comes from search for a better term, an individual with bass in their voice and presence, and a man by nature has presence.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And you mentioned something earlier about how when a man like yourself enters the room and has this presence about you, they're drawn to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because confidence engenders charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Like a male with a degree of earned confidence, self-belief, and seeing the value in himself automatically has a certain amount of charisma.
Right.
So it makes total sense that they would be drawn to that and want to follow and emulate that.
Right.
Well, I commend you on your mission.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So in your childhood, what inspired you, or who rather inspired you to become, who you are now?
In my childhood, okay, well,
or you could say,
no, it's okay. No,
your journey.
Yeah, I only way I can do this is to share a story, and you could do what you want to do with it. But when my dad died, my older brother, because my dad died of cancer, he's a pretty big brother, but he shrunk down to like 100 pounds, and I watched that at 12 and 13 years old, and so obviously that has an effect in your brain.
Absolutely.
You watch a superhero shrink to nothing. So my mom and my brothers got a phone call saying, "Come to the hospital." Now I was thinking that they just wanted to sign some papers or something for some medication. I don't know. Anyway, they were gone for about maybe 10 minutes, you guys, and then I come back and my brother tells me, he says, "Hey, Pops is dead. Pops died." And so now I wasn't expecting that, so it freaked me out. So I go into my room, I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm mad, because again, my superhero, man. I'm yelling, I'm screaming. And when I finally had the ability to have an audible sentence or words come out of my mouth, I yelled at God. I said, "Man," I said, "You know what? I see you do stuff for my mom. You do these miracles and stuff. You're supposed to be almighty, all powerful, all this. You could have healed my dad. You could have done that, man, but you didn't. And because you didn't do it, I don't have a dad. So it's your fault I don't have a dad." Now I'm 13 years old. I don't know what I'm at. I'm doing what I'm doing. I just know I'm mad. And I said, "Because of you, because you didn't heal him, man, I don't have a dad." And I said, "All right, just like that." I mean, this is I remember verbatim. I said, "It's like that." I said, "All right, well, okay, since I don't have a dad, then you're my dad. I didn't ask to be here. I didn't want to be here. This is crazy. This is insane. I mean, I'm mad. So you're my dad." And so I said this. I said that. I said, "Man, if my life is screwed up, it's your fault, not mine. Because I wanted my dad, and he's not here. So you be my dad." So I guess to answer your question, God. He has placed individuals and men, father figures in my life ever since then, from coaches to teachers to mentors. They've spoken into my life at key moments of my life where it could have gone real bad. And he would somehow supernaturally send someone that I respected, someone that I, didn't want to disappoint, and say some things. And it just completely would change the trajectory of my life. There were several different times at the collegiate level. I was thinking about quitting. This coach is crazy, man. It's insane. He's asking some stupid stuff. And then individuals that God would, I believe, would systematically and providentially place in my life and say some things, and it would just, because it would sound like a father. So I guess for me, there's so many different men, so many different father figures, so many different older brothers that over the years that have like spoken, but I knew where it came from. So I guess to make a long story short, it's so many, my brother, but ultimately it's Father God.
What do you think that allowed you to develop that ability to hear it? Because I know you speak life into a lot of men, starting with maybe like those teens on the corner you were referencing, all the way to dads who are already in a commitment. They just don't fully embrace it yet. They're already, they've created children or whatever. And the hope is that they will hear it. They will hear the influence. But kind of going back, look a little bit of reflection in your own origins, like you just did. Thank you. You did wonderful. What do you think caused you to be the type of person to actually hear it in those moments?
I think bro, I think it was the craving for a father. Honestly, I think it was just a craving for a father, man. Okay. And because, I wanted that. I wanted it. And I think and I do believe this, and I believe that all of us want that. I do. I believe that. I believe that all of us want to know where we come from. All of us want to know where, what our purpose is and why we are here. And the only one that can answer that is the one who created you. We can try to get it all out there, but when the smoke clears, when you hear, I guess for me, I think that's what set it up for me. The craving for significance, and when I would hear things that would speak to that purpose, because when you surround a young man with encouragement, urging and comforting, those are telltale things that cause a stimulation to take place in his heart, because he's craving that. You guys know I'm a pastor, so I speak this way, but I say, listen, man. He said, you look at Jesus, the Son of God. You look at when he got baptized, he comes up out of the water, and he was told three things from the Father: I love you, you're my son, and I'm pleased with you. Every person on the planet wants to hear that from an authority figure in their lives. So if the Son of God needed to hear that from his Father, we as people need to hear that from our Father. And so, I love you. I'm pleased. You're my son, man. That's your identity. Now, people, they come at you with all kinds of different stuff. When smoke clears, man, you're my son, and I'm pleased with you, and I love you. And when somehow, some way, that is projected and given to people, no matter men or women, when you're in a position of authority, they consider you a position of authority. When you say those things, they may not come out that way, but when you say those things and live those things and urge them, and it just changes everything. Now, I don't want to preach, but if you go on and read the rest of that in Matthew 4, it said he was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted of the enemy. Now, the first thing that the enemy comes after is his identity, because he said, if you are the Son of God, do this. If you are the Son of God, do that. And the first thing that God told God the Son, that you're my son. That's your identity. And so many times what we see is our kids and families and people living out a false identity. And they're living out a false identity. They're never, ever satisfied, because that's not really what they really want. The world's been telling them that. Those like Robert was talking earlier, those alerts tell them, this is what you need, this is what you do. When all we have to do as men, what I've learned as men, cut through all that, go to their heart. And their heart is, I just want significance. I want to be encouraged. I want to be affirmed. That's all I want. And things happen. And when, again, I'll see grown guys, I see grown men, that are, in their 50s and 60s. I say that first time in their existence, they heard something like that, and it changes everything.
It's an amazing thing, that story. Thank you. Yes. And something I want to bring up that I've always taken away from that story, that God didn't just tell Jesus, he told everyone in his son's presence. And that holds such a powerful resonance in the mind of a young man. For the Father to say to everyone that is possible to hear it, this is my son, in whom I am well pleased. That is an amazing message.
That's huge.
And it was unsolicited.
Yes.
No.
And
which is important to us as influential people, especially men, to look for opportunities to unsolicitedly say, hey, man, good job. Hey, I'm proud of you. Way to go. Even if it's not our child, it could be someone who could take that in. And then the second half of that story was immediately it got put to the test.
Yes.
And I want to be able to tell young people the fact that you're now being put to the test is validation that you are
right. You are right.
You're all right.
Mm-hmm.
Good points. Yeah.
So we in our consulting practice, we find this to be essentially true. Like when we're working with employees, or they even need to hear it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That, you know, this person belongs in this position and they're doing a good job. You know, it's the same basic concept.
Right.
Everybody needs that validation and that sense of value and purpose in their life.
Yes.
If we could just recognize, especially, you know, as men, if we can recognize that everyone is craving that, what you just said, it doesn't matter how old, they're craving that. And that sometimes there is, at least what I've learned, you guys, is that there is most of us are emotionally underdeveloped. You know, we may have mustaches and beards and muscles.
Oh, no, you're right. That's exactly right.
We're emotionally underdeveloped because what happens is there's a thing that happened in our lives, or something that took place in our lives that stunted our emotional development. And when you see, as Paul said in Scripture, you know, when I became a man, I put away childish things. What happens is that we stay at that level of development when something tragic has happened to us. So when something is said that sparks that, then we revert back emotionally to that state, and then we act as if we're that age. That's why most men, when you see them doing temper tantrums, or the wife don't want to be intimate, or something along those lines, or whatever, he does a temper tantrum because I'm not getting what I want. He's acting like a child. And he reverts back to rejection. And
you ain't got to talk about me like that, man.
Oh, man. I just, you know, see that, you know, over and over again. Well, you know, I mean, you look at nothing personal. I'm not trying to jack up anybody, but you look at our athletes nowadays. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
You look at freaking look at our entertainers, man.
You know, it's a fascinating thing. You draw an interesting point. Like, I'll bet that if we were to go back and look at these young men's lives, like you bring up athletes that are in the news, they get a lot of attention because they're famous and they're on the news a lot. So if you were to go back and do a study about when they lost their father figure, at that moment in development is probably where they still are. Just like you're alluding to, that moment is traumatic. I can tell you from personal experience, my biological father was not in my life. And there were some traumatic things that happened in my childhood that definitely stunted or arrested my emotional growth. And I wasn't able to deal with that effectively until past my 40s. I mean, if we're being honest,
real. Yeah.
The guy sitting next to me helped me deal with that. That's how our partnership was forged, was through parts of that process. So, I mean, I can attest directly to your point.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. Well into my decades before it all started making sense.
Yeah.
You know, and like, oh my goodness. And there needed to be that honest dialogue with a friend or someone, and to all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I am acting like I'm 16, you know, or what have
or
you.
6.
Or 6.
Or 6.
Yes. And and I'm thankful. I'm thankful that boy, I could see now, you know.
Yeah.
And I hope we get to have that same influence on others.
Man. Yeah. And again, I think what you guys are doing is admirable. Reason being is because you're setting up an opportunity for people and men to hear these things. You know, you're providing an opportunity for that to happen, even if it's just a drive-by, even if it's just one little word, one little seed, something happens. And I think, I'm really grateful for men like you that put yourself in a position to at least allow those seeds to be distributed, man.
Well, we're grateful for you as well.
Likewise,
you're doing God's work, no question about it. So you back to Otto's journey.
Yeah.
So we got you up to college. You talked a little bit about going to college.
Mhm.
Talk about your athletic journey. Talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, was able to excel athletically at the University of Nevada. Was one of the still one of the top 10 running backs in Nevada history.
Hmm.
Was able to play a short stint in the NFL. First, it was the USFL, the Philadelphia Stars. And of course, they went belly up at that time and resurged. Played with them, and then got cut from. Well, actually, they bellied up. Then went to got picked up by the Eagles. Played with Philadelphia for about a year. Then re-injured my shoulder, and got cut from them. Then got picked up the following year by Kansas City, and didn't make it through the mini camp or training camp because re-injured the shoulder. Then I knew that was it. I knew, that was it. But the idea of being 0.1% of the college athletes to hit the professional level, however short it was, that was both disturbing and hurtful, but at the same time encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
As I would see guys that you play against, still playing the game, making these millions of dollars, man, dude, seriously. And so it took a minute, took a while, about a year of just like sulking and trying to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do. So went back, returned to Reno, really got heavily engaged in finish up some theological schooling, some Bible schooling, and then we got immersed in the community, man, where I started working with juvenile services. And that was bivocational pastor for a long time. And it's but I've always been heavily community minded, family minded. This whole, again, father thing never left. Fatherhood of this just never left. But then I would see the response that people would have when what they would consider to be a father figure speak to them. Then that became more of a confirmation. And frankly, brothers, it became an addiction. Let's just be real. It became an addiction where you would see the response of just a small amount of attention from a father figure and that type of results that would take. It just became. And you'd see why, unfortunately, that we have an adversary that wants it destroyed. Wants the whole masculinity thing destroyed. I was talking to a guy, and he quoted something from me. He said, man, masculinity is not toxic. And I don't know where he got it from, but it was awesome. He said, the masculinity is not toxic. He said, the absence of masculinity is toxic. He said, because a toxic masculinity, it comes from a couple of guys that were homosexuals who are trying to define what masculinity is from that perspective. But he said that the absence of masculinity is toxic masculinity, because they feel as if when a man is not able to do what he's called to do, then you are left with a vulnerable culture. And so the way he just broke it down to me was pretty awesome. It was really, really nice. So I've been using that for a long time.
Well, I believe that's very accurate, that the absence of true masculinity is toxic. I've always believed that to say the term toxic masculinity is a contradiction in itself when you say that, because masculinity does not mean anything toxic. That's a perversion of words.
Yeah. I heard a message by Rob Bell. He wrote the book Velvet Elvis, a pastor. Mm-hmm. And in the book, this was actually it's on YouTube. We were showing it to some youth. And he does this whole white dry erase board. And this one panel, he goes from panel to panel. There were all these almost look like lab measurements of numbers and what have you. And he broke it down to basically say that the human body experience, and he started with the physical body, has this ideal balance of all of these chemicals. And if we get a little bit too much of this, a little bit less of that, here are some effects. And obviously we get dis-ease. And eventually he went into the spiritual side. And so this is where I think that that the absence of masculinity is toxic, because now that means I have an overabundance of another, maybe more effeminate side, and and now that started to cause an imbalance, and thus we're going to get more of that maybe an adolescent reaction rather than a more masculine reaction to something. And so there is that purpose for the presence of that balance, if you will. And I reference his lesson. You can look him up, folks, if you want to. It's a really excellent lesson. Our kids got a tremendous amount of it, because you could see them start to value their relationships even better.
Right.
Yeah, not just the diet they ate, but the diet of human consumption too. Yeah,
that's good, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to challenge you with something. You alluded about your athletic career, and you talked about how you sulked and everything when it was when it had reached its end.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe, and I'd like to hear your input on this, but it appears to me that what you were gaining through that athletic journey was the mental discipline to persevere against any obstacle. And you parlayed that mindset into what you're doing now. Mm. And it gives you the ability to, like an athlete, a star athlete or a professional athlete has to have the ability to be obsessively focused with a purpose, with a growth, with a direction. Mm-hmm. And your typical human being doesn't practice obsessive focus. Mm. Most people don't.
Right.
I know I do. I drive my wife nuts. I'm not a professional athlete, but I have obsessive focus. Right. But I would wager that it's a highly likely thing that was honing your ability to practice anything with obsessive focus. And it requires obsessive focus to begin and maintain a movement like the one that you are pursuing, to generate masculine young men and fathers. Mm-hmm. Like that requires an enormous amount of focus, mm-hmm. ambition, passion, like undying, intrepid commitment.
Right.
And you got all of that pattern in your life through that athletic experience. So that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. You didn't end anything. You were just beginning.
Yeah. I concur 100%. The first year at Nevada, of course, when you're recruited, man, they'll tell you anything they want to tell you so that you'll go to their school.
Yeah.
But so I heard it all. So, but I signed the dotted line, and once you sign the dotted line, this whole startling metamorphosis happens, man. You're not anyway. So my first year, I'll never forget this. My first practice, immediately as freshmen, you go to the meat squad. You are a human moving target for the defense, right?
Yeah.
And it was back in the day, man. You had no water breaks. It was back in our day, man. It was no joke, man. It was the majority of coaches that at least I was a part of had been in the military. So it's like, dude, we're not interested in comforting you. We got a battle plan, and we're gonna win this thing. So we want you to be a part of it. But if you're not, we got to get somebody else. Anyway, my freshman year, I am for the whole year a human moving target for the defense. And it was literally the roughest time of my life, literally. I was thinking about going home. I was homesick. I was mad. I was frustrated. I felt I was lied to, all that stuff. And so I called home. I said, man, this is crazy, y'all. I'm let me transfer somewhere. And I'll never forget this, guys. My mother got on the phone, and she said, let me ask you a question. I said, yes, mother. She said, did you sign on that piece of paper? I said, excuse me, did you sign on the piece of paper saying that you were going to go and play football for those people? That's what. Yeah. So now you're telling me that your word don't mean nothing.
Ooh. See, I told you, Mama knows where you're going before you go there.
Oh,
Man.
Woo.
Well, and at that point, I'm hemming and hawing because I'm still looking for some type of compassion.
Right. Not this mama.
No.
Nope.
No, she knew right what you needed at that
Right there.
moment.
I go back, and that first year was the roughest of my life. Now, what got me, what helped me with that, is at the time I'm looking at this is crazy, whatever. But it was rough. I mean, guys like Charles Mann and those guys were guys I played with. They anyway, so finished that year. But what got me is that this logic that I think I really believe Father God gave me was that you just endured the roughest thing you'll ever endure in your life.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna deal with death, you're gonna deal with stuff, but when the smoke clears, you're vulnerable, you're alone, you're young by yourself, all this stuff. But you made it through. So anytime something gets rough, anytime I think I'm done with this, I look back on that freshman year. And I compare anything to that, and it's like the rest of your life is gravy. Don't get me wrong; it's rough. Don't get me wrong; but you're so accurate, Robert, in that it gives you something. It gives you a drive. It gives you an understanding that most of the time life is painful, man, and it just is. I don't know. Gosh, man, I just feel like I'm talking too much.
No.
But there was my sons told me, said, Dad, I want you to watch this series called Daredevil, on Netflix. So I started watching it. So this blind guy, man, and he's in Hell's Kitchen, and he just, he's a superhero, but he's blind, man. But and he's not from a standpoint of like he has magical powers or anything. He's just a tough dude, man. He's just bad. And I don't want to lose it, but I lose it every time I think about it. Anyway, these bad guys had this ring where they were like, taking families and taking kids and prostituting them. He found out where they were at, and it was one young boy. So this guy, he had it was like a hallway. And the hallway was like different rooms. But at the end of the hallway was where they had this 5-year-old boy tied up, getting ready to ship him off to traffic him. So this blind daredevil, he busts in, and all these guys start coming at him. So he's like handling business, doing the martial arts stuff. I mean, he is getting lit up. I mean, all over the place. He's just getting, but he just wouldn't stop. He just freaking wouldn't stop, man. So he would like knock a dude out, man. And so, I mean, I'm talking like, 10 guys, right? So he finally, at the very end, was this big old buff dude. And so it was his toughest fight, but he did it. He's bleeding. His face is all, his mask is just crushed, man. But he goes in, and you don't see him, but he comes in. But once he comes out, he's got that little boy. He's got him. And that little boy's hugging him. And this defined look on this kid's face, like somebody loved me enough to go through all of this to get me to my dad. And that is the thing that gets me every time. So anytime I think, dude, this is rough. You don't need to be doing this crap, man. Go find a job somewhere, man. You don't have to worry about paying these bills. It's crazy. But when I think of a child out there that's looking for their dad, it just keeps me going. It freaking just keeps me going. I can't stop. I wish I could. I wish I can get that out of my head. I mean, it was the visual pattern of my life. That's why I saw in that short little segment of about 5 minutes of just going for it.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah. And it was my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
My life. So when you say that, brother, that's what gets me. I mean, it gets me.
That's a powerful metaphor. I mean, if you're looking,
you guys, dang it, make sure you
give up your sight and fight for what's right. And that's what that daredevil character was doing.
Say again.
Give up your sight and fight for what's right.
Well, that's a sermon, brother. I'm taking that. I'm just
Take it. It's yours. It's yours. I mean,
you may hear it in some of our stuff moving forward.
Robert, that was great, man. That was divine impartation, my friend.
Yes.
Well, it gave me goosebumps just listening to you talk about it. I probably wouldn't have gained as much from the scene in the movie had it not come from you positioned in your story the way that you did it so well. So thank you for sharing that.
Man.
And I can promise you this, our audience is used to emotion. So there is no shame in that, brother.
No.
That is a very, very masculine trait, healthy masculine trait to be able to show true emotion.
That's right.
That's part of love. So thank you for that. So I'm going to ask you a hard question for some people to answer. Do you see yourself as successful?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Where I want to be from a financial standpoint, absolutely not. But
are we ever though? I mean,
right. But as far as being a success in what I know in my heart I'm called to do, many people are successful, but they're not successful at their purpose. And I've seen millionaires that are still looking for their purpose. It's easy for them to make money. That's right. That's not an issue, but they're still looking for their purpose. Basketball players, athletes, that's not their purpose. That's just what they do.
That's right.
So success for me is being able to walk in the purpose that God has designed for you. So yeah, I believe I think I'm extremely successful. I'm extremely successful, and I'm very blessed.
Well put.
Yes.
Well put. So in your opinion, and this doesn't have to be exactly about you, but what separates a successful person from someone who is not successful?
I think, I think you alluded to it earlier. Just don't stop. Just don't stop. I've been at the gym. I've been training for the last 30 years. And, a couple of my buddies got me into this bodybuilding stuff. So, dude, seriously, just try it out. I tried it and didn't like it. But my point is that because of that, each morning, and this has been because of the athletic background, I think, as well. But each morning, 4:30 in the morning, I get up, and by 5:15, I'm at the gym, pounding it, and that's my space. That's my temple, and we just converse, me and God. But the consistency and the willingness to sacrifice some sleep to get up and be consistent, just be consistent, faithful and consistent. I got cut from the Eagles, and a friend of mine's dad owned a landscaping business in California. And I needed to get out of Reno because everybody's asking, are you going back? So I go, and I'm working for him. So I got to do something. I got to stay in shape. So I get this membership at this Gold's Gym, guys. And I'm training. A week into it, I'm training. I see a guy, older Italian brother. And he's got on the bench like 315. He's like racking it, man, just playing with it. Oh, so he racks the thing. And I'm naturally inquisitive, so I hate bothering people when they're working out. So I wanted to make it quick, but his physique and the way he looked compelled me. I couldn't help it. So I go over to him. I said, "Man, listen, I don't mean to bug you. I really don't." I said, "But what is the freaking secret, dude? I'm looking at them lats. I'm looking at your back. I'm looking at your arms, and I'm seeing them gray hairs, man. So what is the secret, my friend?" And he goes, "Oh, you're not bothering me. I mean, older Italian brother. Guys, he was ripped, man. This boy was jacked." And I said, he goes, "Do me a favor." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Look around." I looked around. He goes, "You see those guys over there? Steroid heads, guys all buffed and huge, but just, you could tell they were roids." He goes, "Those guys, they wanted it yesterday." He said, "Me, I want to look like this tomorrow." Mm-hmm. I said, "Okay." He says, "Just three things. 3 things, young man." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Number 1, just be consistent. Whatever it is you put your head to, be consistent. You could be the most lousy piano player, but if you just play the same song every day, you'll be proficient, and nobody in the world can play it better.
Hmm.
Just be proficient. Just be consistent. I said, okay. He goes, be moderate in your food consumption. Eat right. Sometimes have some, but just be moderate. If you're gonna do a show, do what you got to do, but just be moderate. Then he says, whatever you do, this is what got me now. This is what got me. It's one of the main things. He said, whatever you do, you find your good wife. I said, excuse me? He said, find your good wife. And he didn't say woman. He didn't say girlfriend. He made sure he said wife. I said, why? He says, because she needs to know, especially if you love working out, she needs to know that if things go off and you guys are in a fight, that you're out with this mistress as opposed to a physical mistress.
Hmm. That's a good one.
I've been married 37 years and took that advice. It works. It works, man. I said, honey, I got to go. She goes, I know, go. I know. And it's and she doesn't see it as a competition or anything. This is just a part of my life. I say all that to say that, to answer your question, if a person is just consistent, no matter what it looks like, just don't quit, just don't stop, just don't stop. I know, just don't stop. Just don't stop. You're going to have every excuse because honestly, quitting is contagious. You quit,
That's true.
you're going to find a way to quit something else and quit something else and quit something else. But I tell you what, not quitting is just as contagious.
Yes.
And so for me, I think that's the most important thing. Just don't stop. No matter what, just don't stop.
Because if I may, as a question, excuse me,
No,
so setbacks, challenges, maybe even failures, which is obviously the antithesis of your advice.
Yeah.
What do those things mean to you, which cause you to apply what that gentleman told you every morning at 4:30?
Yeah.
What do those things mean to you? The failures, the challenges, the setbacks.
For moments, even sometimes days, it just took me under. Frankly, it just took me under. But I knew by virtue of just the way in which I've been made up that eventually I was going to, get up and go. But the quicker I learned to respond to me, the better I was. So in other words, it's like, okay, dude, you're going to sit here and you're going to get up. You're going to go. So why are you waiting? Just go, man. The sooner you do it, the better you're going to feel. Quit giving yourself an excuse not to do anything. So I think the failures help me to communicate to myself better. To be honest with you, I mean, it really does. At least for me, it's taught me how to listen to myself quicker. Because you're going to do it. You're not going to stop. I mean, you guys know you're not going to stop. No matter what's going on, what you have been called to do, the pursuit of purpose. It doesn't matter what happens. You're going to do it. So it's like, well, the sooner you listen to yourself and just go, then the better off you be. The quicker you feel better.
Yeah. Yep. Those are facts right there.
They are. Thank you. Yeah.
So yes, sir. That's really helped me.
So we're about an hour in now, and typically our interview programs are an hour or less. So I hope you're okay on time.
Yeah, brother. Like I said, I got your back, man.
This has been a very rich interview. We really appreciate you and your direction and your heart. We've got a few questions that we always ask every guest. But before we do, is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience, or any question that we should have asked you that you would like to have been asked?
Oh, no. I think I think honestly, you guys, the topic itself, I believe, lend to what I wanted to try to get across. For me, don't give up on you. That's my biggest thing. Don't give up. Let everybody. If others are going to give up on you, okay, but don't give up on you. You know in your heart what you want to do. You know what you've been called to do. Just don't give up on that, no matter what it looks like. I mean, a guy that I consider to be a spiritual father, Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole, who started the whole CMN, the Christian Men's Network thing years ago. he didn't start that ministry until he was like 60. So for me, it's like, it's never too late. I don't care. It's never too late. I just talked to a person who just finished their master's degree at 76. And 77, something like that. Another guy. And anyway, so point is that it's never too late. It's just, so for me, if I can get anything across, that's it.
That's a key principle here at Pursuit of Purpose.
Yes, it is.
This entire thing was founded on the concept that you can reinvent yourself at any point in your life and pursue your purpose in your season.
Great. That's great.
So thank you for that, Otto. So I've got two questions for you that I'm going to ask. Number one, what advice do you have for anyone who might aspire to be like you? Somebody that like say wants to be in a ministry like yours. Let's say they're female and they want to work with putting positive, powerful femininity in young women, or men. Either way it goes. What advice might you have for somebody that aspires to be like you?
I think for me, what I would say, don't undermine your awareness. I guess what I'm saying is, don't undermine your ability to see. Like you see the need out there, you can equally see what is necessary for you to meet that need, is what I'm saying. So the advice that I would give people in that is that you can get more information online. In other words, you can get a PhD online without the traditional. So there's nothing that can stop you from pursuing what you believe you're called to do, but you. Because there's access to what you're trying to do everywhere.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right, is what I'm saying. I mean, we're in information superhighway, man. So everything that you're wanting to do is there. So for me, I guess I hope I'm making sense, but
yeah, you're making sense.
Open your eyes, and the very things that you believe that you're called to do, the steps that it takes in order to get that done is right there.
Yeah,
it's not like. For example, if they have a desire to do what you just mentioned, you got two men right here that can help you recognize what you need to do in order to do that. So, and then number two, I found hanging around individuals that are doing the things that you want to do.
That's very good. Yes, very good. So before I ask my last question, and then I'm gonna let Chuck, if you have anything that you'd like to add or ask. But before I do that, I'd like to get you, if anyone in our audience out there would like to participate in your ministry, if they would like to donate or help you in any way, how would they do that?
A couple ways. One, you can go to dadeacademy.com. And what that'll do is, well, actually, there's two of them. Go to sonstomen.org, SONSTO, men, MEN.org, and it'll go to a construction website that we're building, and it'll give you information on how to get a hold of me. Or if you want to take this number down, 775-800-6485, that's the direct line to Dad Academy / Sons to Men. So, and then there you can kind of begin to communicate and how we can help, what we can do. So that's the best way.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Perfect. And so the same link or what have you, the same access would be if a young man or if a dad or a man would like to participate in your ministry, he could also follow those links as well.
He can. And I'm not, I'm easy. In other words, I'll call you back. I'm not one of those guys have 14 people, between. No, I don't know. Who's like that is, I love him, is Kevin Sorbo. You guys, he's like that, man. I had him speak at a crisis pregnancy center fundraiser, And yeah. Anyway, so I like that. So yeah, you can call me. I'm not.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And the question that we always close, or that I always close with, my favorite question. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back in time and whisper in your own ear some quote unquote sage advice, let's say you could go back to, say, when you were 16, 17 years old, what would you tell yourself?
You really are valuable. You really are, man. No, you really are. I know that there's things that scream at you, telling you that you should be this and should be that, or you could do this. You are extremely valuable, and you're one of a kind, and there's nobody like you. I'd whisper that to me over and over and over and over again. At 16 years old, 17 years old, no, dude, you are it. Not to say that other people aren't, but you are. You're it. And I would speak that to myself.
I love that you put that caveat in there, not to say that other people aren't. So many times we see that as though we're in competition with other people. We can't be valuable and other people. That's totally ridiculous.
Right.
Our value increases the more other people's increases, and vice versa. There is no competition. No. The higher we go, the higher we go. There's nobody that has to step on anybody else to step up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Thank you for that, though, Otto. And you are valuable.
Thank you, sir.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Chuck, have you anything to add?
There's a couple of closing comments. And thank you again for all of this, the entire interview, and your closing quotes really nailed it. We are unique, and we are not by comparison, but we are in community. And so find that contribution. I love all the message, and there's so many things. I can't wait for us to pick those out and really express those to our audience. They're going to get a lot out of this. But one thing for sure, just to kind of take it back to the beginning of our conversation, we're all old enough to have seen this rate of decline in the value of men in our society. And I'm so proud of you and being friends with you. And hopefully we can do our part as well to bring that balanced value back. And most, I don't really cannot imagine one person I have talked to, even if they come into my office with a lot of issues, that didn't start to see the value in those comparative contributions, mom, dad, husband, wife, sister, brother, whomever. But there's a balance, and they want it. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for you to be a part of bringing that portion of the balance back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
And remember, give up your sight and fight what's right. There you go.
That's right.
That's our Ottoism for today.
Yeah. Man, I'm telling you, that's a sermon title right there, my friend.
That's it.
I love it. I want to hear it when you do it, when you deliver that one.
Oh man, shoot! I may do it in Beaumont.
There you go. Work it up. Bring it down. Bring it over.
Well, Otto, do you have anything that you'd like to add or throw out for the audience before we close?
I honestly do think we've covered a lot. I think we've covered it all. I mean, the way in which you guys bring things out and have conversation is awesome, because that's what it is, a great conversation. But I think in closing, again, man, please value you. I mean, really, I think, again, one of the things that I really express with the men in the workshops is that this is about you. It's not what you bring to the table. This is about you. And so let's focus in on valuing you, and then we can go from there. So if don't hear anything else, please value you. You have so much to bring to the table. And I would venture to say that people not only want you, but they need you. They need your gifting. They need your talent. They need your tenacity. They need you. So if I can close with that, I'm telling you, man, that would just make my heart. It's great.
Thank you, Otto. That's very profound. Well, guys out there in our audience, thank you guys for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we've had with us
Otto Kelly.
Y'all have a great day.